Welcome back, artists. Today we are going to glaze our bits and pieces project. You will be choosing just one color and you're going to glaze the whole thing, the inside and the out. The only place you do not glaze is on the bottom. And you're going to want to put 3 layers, 3 coats of the glaze. So the first thing you'll do is pick out your color and you want to make sure that you give it a good shake. Before you shake it though, make sure that you have your finger on top of the lid in case it wasn't on properly. And it's not a bad idea to check the lid to see if it is not closed all the way. And then you just give it a shake. You should hear liquid, but it should not sound super watery. It should be kind of thick. And then you're gonna see that the glaze doesn't always look exactly like it's going to turn out. One of the rules of glaze is that what you see isn't always what you get. Although this is pretty close. Here on this, you can see what this is going to end up like. The color looks a little bit lighter than what the final result will be. And it also looks kind of dull. The other thing you want to think about is keeping track of the layers that you put on your glaze. I suggest that you either start on the inside or the outside and do the whole thing and then go to the other. And typically by the time you're done with one, the next one will be dry enough so that you can put another layer on it. So in my case, I'm going to start in the center just because I think it's a little bit easier to work on the inside and have that wet than to do the outside, then have to hold it with my hands for the other part. So I'm going to just take my brush, I'm going to dip it in. I don't put it all the way down to the bottom, and I just get the glaze on the bristles, and then I just start painting. My goal is to make all the white of the clay go away. And as you can see, this is going to take a while, right? It's not hard work, but it does take time. I'm doing a lot of dipping with my brush and putting the glaze in the spots. And I am just going to continue to do this until I have the entire inside glazed. All right, now that I have the inside of my piece glazed with one layer, I'm now going to go to the outside. And I want to make sure if you have openings in your pieces, it's important that you put glaze on the inside those openings as well. So and that might take a little bit of time. You have to put the brush inside that and kind of wiggle it around. If you're having a hard time getting into all the little cracks and crevices, you want to make sure that you have a full brush. So that means you dip it in the glaze, and then you have an extra bit of glaze on your brush, and you just kind of dab it in with the tip, and that will usually get it into the cracks. So now I'm just going to continue working my way around on the outside for my first layer. Now that I have finished my first layer on the outside and the inside, it is time to put on a second layer. Now, you will notice that the part that I did at the beginning, do you see how it's kind of chalky? It's not shiny anymore. That tells you that it's dry enough to put on another layer. Down here, the stuff where I just put it on, it's still a little bit wet. It looks like it's wet. That needs to sit a little bit before it's ready for the next layer. When we glaze, it's important that we put them on top of each other so that it's thick enough to get the color that you want. If you don't do enough coats, then it's not going to turn out like what it says here. The other thing you want to think about too is if you are taking a break, remember we're not going to put our brush in here. If I put my brush in here, it's going to go all the way down to the bottom. So that means my brush is going to be full of glaze all the way up to here. And that's going to make a big mess. So if you need to take a break, you're just going to set your brush on the lid, and then when you're ready, you're going to get back at it. So now that I have one layer on, I'm going to go back and do the second one on the inside and the outside, and then I'll do a third one before I'm finished. Now that I have one layer on though, do you see how it's all the same color? I'm gonna have to pay a little bit more attention to make sure that I put the coats, that I put enough coats on and I start and stop in a certain spot. Now that I'm done with my second layer, this one goes on a little bit quicker, so it doesn't dry as quickly. You might have to wait a few minutes for it to turn from the shiny color to the dull color. Even the inside of mine looks a little bit shiny yet, so I'm gonna wait a little bit, and then I'll put on the third and final coat. Now that I have all three coats on my piece, I'm gonna wanna wait a little bit before I pick this up because it's wet, and if I pick it up right now, it's gonna get all over my hands, it's gonna come off of my piece. But you can put the lid back on your glaze, and then you can go wash your hands if you need to, wash out your brush, and then you'll also be washing your table.